It's an app designed by rangers for field staff to be able to use GIS mapping in a way that's helpful to them. So none of the stuff that's here is mandatory, which is great. For once, something in our world that you don't have to actually do, but could be used to help your work. So all these ideas came from other park staff. And the idea is we wanted to create something that was editable, shareable between staff, and usable for the long term. Um, we've had over the years, we've had lots of different data collections, but some stuff doesn't last. It might get lost in a filing cabinet or on someone else's device when they change parks, or you just get a new device upgraded, and you might have used Maps and stuff in the past, or you might use Onyx or Google Maps, Google Earth. The benefit of this whole GIS in one smart park system is that it's you can send stuff to each other real time. It's shared so everybody can have access to it that needs access. And it goes between the backcountry, offline enabled, all the way to the office. So whether you got cell service at your park or you don't, whether you want to use an iPad, your phone, the computer, whatever you're most comfortable, we can use it. And it is really good for collaboration. If you visit each other's parks, or if you're just curious what's going on in another park, you can open up the map and learn what other people are doing in mapping at different parks. The layers that we have that we'll talk about are the ones that we were in the poll, but all of these are different ideas, and there's even more than this that have come up. Some of the biggest new ones we have are utilities layer. Obviously, we might not be getting down to survey grade accuracy here, but it's a way to map out what you know about your utility network in a way that's helpful for you guys. So with that, I'm going to get on into the what this setup is. So on the phone, it sort of looks like this. You have a whole bunch of layers that you can turn on and off. You'll notice now we've got maybe 30. We started with 4, and all of these ideas came from you. On the computer, you'll be able to do that plus way more. And so I'll show you what that looks like as well. So to get started, you're going to want to go to our Smart Parks Hub page. So before there were SharePoint hubs, there were GIS hubs. And I know you guys, the lingo is kind of annoying, but what you want to do when you first get there, and Leah will send a link to this address into the chat, is log in. So if you don't have a GIS account, send me a message. We'll get you set up with one, or any of your park staff, whether it's an admin, maintenance worker, or maybe even a seasonal who's going to be doing some mapping for you. They can get a license. We have enough to go around, and there's no charge to the parks. This is what the public can see. So there are some applications that we have, like a Duck River Explorer, that is totally fine for the public to take a look at. But if you want to get to the secret, awesome stuff, you're going to want to sign in with your account. When you do so, all of a sudden, you get to One Smart Park and all the really good things. I'll mention too that we have a training and resources page, which has some general overview and the other applications. So you might already be using something that's related to GIS and you didn't even know about it. So if you have to submit monthly programs through that PPI form, or if you want to take a look at all the different RMS incidents that have been mapped around your park, we now have an application just as of December that shows that. But the biggest one that you're going to want to use is called One Smart Park. The idea is this is a web application that shows the map that you have on your phone, but with even more information. I'm going to tour you around the website a little bit. So again, you need to log in order to see this, and that means the public cannot see this. All of this stuff is locked down to Parks and Conservation staff. Not even all of TDEC can see this, so just Parks and Conservation members. Um, on the left-hand side is all our fun layers that we've got. At the bottom, there's a table, kind of like an Excel sheet that shows you details for everything, like all the different park signage that's been collected, and you can filter, you can sort just like you can on an Excel sheet or a table, and you can even export that to Excel if you needed that information. So if I were to zoom into a park, anybody want to volunteer their park if you've done some mapping to take a look at, or should I just pick for someone? I saw Gary here, so let's head on over to Henry Horton because you're in the middle of the map. So as you zoom in, you're going to notice some things change. So over here on the left, the layers are grayed out. They're not dark black, and that means it is invisible at this scale. So as you zoom in a little bit more, they turn black and you can see them. Um, as I was zooming in and out, you might have noticed this little blue dot, and that's kind of like a buffering dot that sometimes shows up for a quick second or longer if you don't have great cell service at your park. So if that thing just keeps flashing for you, that might be an indicator that the Wi-Fi might not be strong enough. You might have to do it from like a home office. These maps are for you to do whatever you want to do at the park. So over time, they're going to get really big and busy and full of different features. And that's all right. We have a really nice way to clean these things up over time. So let's look at Henry Horton. We have the yellow polygons or areas are miscellaneous areas. So if you don't want to see those anymore, I can turn those on or off. And you'll see we go from having them on or off. They've also done some work with some trail planning or maybe even some wildlife areas, so I can turn those on and off as well. Let's go to over here. You'll see those change. They're proposing a new trail as part of their mountain bike system over here where they've mapped it out, which is great. And this is kind of a good example too. You guys have collected GIS data in the past. So in this case, one of the rangers sent me his Avenza GPX track, and I was able to put it in here. If that ranger wants to continue working, they can do so in this one smart park system from here on out. They can add more information and details, and they could even come in here and mark it when it's finally open to the public, and so that it will me and Leah know to add it to the park map. So if you go to the legend, you can see we've got little icons that represent different things. So we got helicopter landing zones, where the disc golf course is, the what's it called, the storybook trails, AED locations in the visitor centers, entrances, hazards along the water, small boat access points, picnic areas, all really great things. Some of these might have been used to create like an event map, which was an example for the Duck River Expo this year. I'm going to turn off park assets so I can show you the legend over here. You'll see that we've got different symbols for each thing. It's not all inclusive, but I really tried to build this out. So whether you're collecting different cultural types of points or different types of signage, they all show up a little bit differently. You've got landscape features, plant areas and wildlife areas, even cultural resource lines. So if you have some historic stone walls or earthworks or roads, maybe it's an old logging road through your park, we have the ability to map that out. We also have some boundary things, vegetation, and I'm going to let Leah show more of this when we get onto our phone. Along with the layers that we have that are part of the one smart park system, that means it's a statewide layer that rangers and park staff can contribute to. We have some additional layers too. So if I were to go down, before we do that, I want to show you just some quick tips too. We're going to get into editing later and printing, but over here is the base map. So I know some of you mentioned you're interested in imagery and things like that. You can turn on change the base map to this imagery hybrid, which is going to keep the road names and such, but also show you some imagery underneath. So that imagery may be a little bit out of date. For example, in this case, it is new. We got the visitor center, but we do have some other layers down here. So beyond this one smart park things, we have historic things. So if you collected vending machines or grills or waste disposal points, picnic tables way back in the day, we still have those layers. Campsites and cabins are kept separately. And we also have things like adjacent parcels. So if you're working on a state lands acquisition a map coming up or something like that, or you're having a boundary issue, or you want to get to know your neighbors, we're going to try to every 6 months update this and put in kind of like a quarter-mile buffer around your park so you know who your nearest neighbor is and you guys can all become best friends. So this comes from the tax parcels state comptroller's office, and that'll help you get to know your neighbors a little bit. We also have things like TWA boundaries and state forests, some TVA lands, state recreation areas and trails. So that's for your local parks and rec if you want to see what that's all about. Recently, as of a couple minutes ago, added a contours overlay, which may or may not work, but the idea is that it will show contour lines. Looks like it's not working, but the idea is I want to have a contour overlay for what you guys can see. We can also change the imagery to be leaf off. So what does it look like in the winter time here? This will let you look more, see through the trees a little bit. And there's also some other imagery options here as well. So you can see how that's changed. Some of them are a little bit more high definition. Also, we have some color infrared and DVI if you want to know the health of the forest, things like that. All right, with that, I'm going to switch it over to Leah so that she can show you guys how to get started on your phone. And you feel free to ask questions as we're doing this in the chat. I'll keep an eye on that. And thanks for joining us.
Alrighty. Okay. Um, so I'll be showing you on the iPad today, but it should look very similar on your phone, whether you have an iPhone or an Android, it should all work pretty much the same. So if you don't have the Field Maps application on your device already, just go to your App Store and type in ArcGIS Field Maps. It's the blue icon you're seeing on my screen right now. Once that is downloaded, you'll just open it up and you're going to need your ArcGIS sign-in that Andrew can provide if you don't have that. Before you click sign in with your credentials, click that organizational or organization's URL drop down and just make sure TDEC is written in that little box. And then up here, you'll write your username, password, and click sign in. Oh, fabulous. Bear with me for just a second.
And it's great. So whether you have Android or an iPhone, it works. You can use it on a tablet. You can use it on your personal phone as well as your state phone. So whatever you want works with it. And Lee, if you looks like you were able to get right on in.
Yes, thanks, Andrew. Okay, so once you're in, just a little housekeeping. If you go up to your profile icon in the top left, this is your profile page. I like to make sure that auto sync under general is turned on. That's that blue toggle. And that just means when you come back to good cell service or Wi-Fi, your edits will automatically sync to the cloud and you don't have to worry about doing that manually. I also suggest turning cellular data on if you have that for your device. Mine's off because my iPad doesn't have that. But that just means that it will use cell service and not just Wi-Fi to sync, which is helpful when you're in the field. Okay. If you're not seeing one smart park on your map list, you'll just need to use that search bar at the top and it should show up. If it's not, just shoot us an email. If I click on mine, you're going to see that I have an online map and on-device maps. So yes, this will work offline. So if you don't have good cell service in the field, you'll just have to make an offline map before you head out. So to do that, you'll click the ... next to one smart park on your map list, and you'll do add offline area. It's going to show you the state of Tennessee in a little tiny bounding box. So for example, if I zoom into Edgar Evans, you'll see that my bounding box is way too small for this park. So I'm going to click room next to level of detail at the bottom, and we're going to change it to small building. And so now you'll see my bounding box includes most of the park that I will be working in. So I'm happy with that, and I'll click download area. So it will take some time depending how big your box is. It's normally about 15 minutes for me in Wi-Fi. And once it downloads, you can rename them, like you'll see that I have several parks on this device. But for now, we're going to use the online map for the demo, so I'm just going to open it on up. It's going to drop a blue point where I'm sitting, which is at my house. And I've got some fake data in here to play with today. But just to give you a rundown of the app itself, in the top right, you'll see a stack of pancakes. That's your layers list. So if I open that up, this is where you can toggle layers on and off depending on what you're working on. This is also where you can filter, which I'll show you that in a little bit. You'll see that some layers are turned off as default. So if you're not seeing something on your map, just make sure it's toggled on in your layers list and it should show up then. All right. First, we're going to talk about boundary markers since that was a hot topic in our poll. So if I zoom in, you'll see a bunch of green, yellow, and orange circles with little white blazes on them. Those are our boundary markers. So what that is in the field is if you walk up to like a carcinite post or maybe an orange metal sign on a tree, that's what we're considering a boundary marker. You're not going to use One Smart Park to survey your boundary, but this helps you review your boundary and review the signage that is on your boundary line. A lot of IPPs might include like doing this yearly or every so often. So we've updated this layer recently. As you can see, some of them are green. That means that I've reviewed that boundary marker in the last year. If I haven't reviewed that boundary marker in the last year to 2 years, it will turn yellow. And if I have not reviewed that boundary marker over 2 years, it's now orange. So that is visually showing me that I need to review that part of my boundary that's orange and yellow, but the green part has been reviewed recently. To collect a point, let's just collect one together. If you're in the field, I would just use the blue plus button at the bottom to collect something. That's just going to drop a point where your actual location is. But since I'm not in the field, I'm going to just take my finger and I'm just going to click and hold. And then I drop a pin. This is also a quick and easy way to get your lat long coordinates if you ever need those. But we're going to click collect here. That's going to put my crosshairs where my finger was on the map. And so for boundary, I'm just going to type in boundary. We want to mark a boundary marker that I found maybe on a tree or a carcinite post. It's going to drop that point right there. I can take photos of that sign if I want to, and then I'm going to have to give it a park name. That is a required field. If it was an encroachment, I would mark that there, but this is just a marker on a tree. And where it says review date, that's going to automatically be today. And for this status, I'm going to say it's existing because it's in good condition and I don't need to replace it. I could add any notes if I wanted to there. So I'll just click submit. And it should turn green. Yep, so now it's green because I reviewed it today, which is less than a year. All right. Let's collect a search and rescue point. So if you're seeing this blue line, that's a trail, but this red dotted line, that's actually an access road from this other neighborhood. So let's say I wanted to map out my search and rescue insertion points. So I'm just going to collect here again. So this is like where I could meet a hiker if they broke their leg. If I wanted to get there faster than hiking the entire trail, I could mark these access points. So I'm just gonna type in SAR and you'll get all of those options that we have, including the access roads and routes, the line features that I showed earlier. So this is gonna be an access point. It's just gonna be a little arrow. And I can give it details like photos or attachments. I will have to say what park I'm at. And if this is public view, most of the time, these search and rescue points are going to be no. I can give it a name, a description, a status, a condition, and any notes if I want to. But again, all of those fields are optional. So if it's not helpful to you, don't fill it out. I'll just click submit. And now if I ever have a search and rescue event at my park, not only can my rangers view this data, but rangers coming from other parks can also assist me because they can see these points as well. Right? Speaking of trails, let's say I have some erosion problem on one of my trails, and I just want to map that out um, for future record, just so I can go back with the right equipment. So I'm just going to collect here on my blue trail, and I'm going to type in trail. You'll see we have lots of trail options. Let's see. Uh-oh, Andrew. Okay, this is a good test. My trail issues and damages layer is not showing up. So why is that happening? Because if I go to my layers list, it's turned off on my layers list. So if something ever disappears and you can't figure it out like I just did, that was a great demo. Turn on the layer in the layers list. Okay, sweet.
So this
So now
trails and this trail damage issue layer, where is it coming from? If I open up my park and I see all these trail damages on my park, how do they get there? I'm not the one who put them in.
yeah, so if you remember doing like a trail assessment back in like 2016, I think it was a ton of data. That is where all the existing points are coming from. If those are no longer relevant, you can mark them as completed or delete them. Um, but we want to be able to build upon that so they are available there if they're still relevant to your park. Okay, so that's why it's turned off because sometimes a lot of parks have a lot of points, so it gets a little busy. I'll just click collect here. And now if I type in trail, there it is at the very top, trail and event. This can also be used for natural disasters or events that happen at the park that leave damages. Multi-use here. I'm just going to drop a point on my trail. This is where I could take a photo maybe of the erosion issue. I will have to give it a park and a status. So if it's a safety issue, I can say that, or else I'll just say it's pending. I can give it a cause, a description, even the trail it's on or the event that caused it, and then the date that I completed it if I go back and fix this issue. All right, so I'll just click submit, and it will pull up a little yellow icon just to notify me where that issue is on my trail. All right, the last thing I want to show for points is going to be a proposed trailhead. So let's say at the end of this road, I want to propose a new trailhead, just to show people kind of what's in my brain, what I'm picturing in the future. So I'm just going to type in trailhead. It's going to drop that point. I can give it a picture if I wanted to. It's going to want a park name. This public view is going to be no for this one because it doesn't exist yet. I can give it a name and a description if I wanted to, like Visitor Center Trailhead. And then the status here is going to be proposed because I am just planning at this point. And then if I need to write any notes at the bottom of what I'm planning, I can do that there. And now I have a proposed trailhead. And we'll go over some trail planning things and other features in a little bit.
Awesome. Thanks, Leah. Yeah, it's really great. A lot of this is super optional, but there are drop downs. So when there's a drop down, that means you'll later be able to filter something. So if I wanted to say, let's see all the proposed features, or let's see all the things that I want to remove, or the things that have been damaged from a specific event, by keeping those, writing in the same type of note for each of the event, or using the same type of status allows us to filter on the phone in both the map. We're going to hop back over to the map for a little bit and show you around some other features. So the One Smart Park system is not just for in your park. You guys are members of the general community. You've got partners that you work with. Some of you are part of state forests or you're in natural areas, so you're going around to multiple parks. So I wanted to show you that you can do One Smart Park beyond your boundaries. So if you were working at Reelfoot Lake, one of the things that they're interested in is knowing where are all the eagle nests around the state. Um, it's helpful for them to know this because it will just knowing where they are, even if it's beyond their boundary, uh, is important for helping to monitor them. It's taken me a second to load this, so give me let me try to reload. I was playing with this while you guys were talking, so hoping I didn't make any mistakes on the back end. All right, here's the eagles I was talking about. So they might be doing efforts with TWRA, working at some of the wildlife management areas where they're also documenting the eagle habitats and knowing what their name is and maybe the last time they were visited will help them keep track of those as well. Over at Natchez Trace, they've got it's like a state recreation area now. So you got the state forest and the WMA there. So one of the things that they've done is we've mapped out all the forest roads there, whether they're a trail or they're open to ATV use or just mountain bike or horseback riding use. All the red lines are access routes. That's the category of layer that they have there. For a project they were doing, they were looking at signage all along the WMA and the trails, and they were able to document what is the sign types. It's an informational sign, give it some description, and even a photo so they know which stuff needs to be replaced. So that's a good example of how you can use a layer to kind of accomplish a project. One thing I wanted to show you guys is that you can move layers up and down as well. So if you are, if it's the stacking is just not working out well for you, here we've got park assets. We could move those underneath signage at any point, and it will kind of revisualize those so they can go on top. And this becomes helpful if you're trying to print off a quick map. You can also even change the transparency of the stuff to make it less intense. So if I really didn't want I can turn the signage off, or I could maybe just have it decrease the transparency of that a little bit more, so it doesn't impact too much. The transparency works a little bit better on polygons and lines than it does for points. Leo was talking about proposed features and how to map out proposed parks. We're building new parks. You guys are helping out in natural areas. You're doing new parts of your park that have not been developed before for recreation. So let's go on over to Savage Gulf where they have this exact type of thing happening. So the park manager here has gone along and marked a bunch of proposed bridges and boardwalk areas that are going to be needed. And so this is a proposed boardwalk. And it was made by Aaron. We can see the date that he made it on, and he might have been trying to build a map. This is the Three Forks Lake Trail. That is a potential trail that he's working on. And you might be like, why are all there these boardwalks and stuff here? It looks pretty dry. Well, the base map in this case is being a little bit deceiving to us. So if we change it over to, let's not use the base map, but let's try one of those imagery options that we had way down below. I'm use World Imagery Clarity as this version, and let's see what it looks like. Oh, there's a lake there. So it's not just Laurel Creek. There is actually a dam that has a lake there. So now all that stuff makes a little bit more sense with the inlets and bridges that would be needed to connect these places together. So I thought that was a cool example. And again, we could reduce the transparency and stuff on this or reorder to move things around. And there are, we could do a contour overlay, which is going to start giving you they're really, really faint lines. So we might have to edit that to make them more pronounced, but you can see that is at like 1,800 feet, I believe, give you some context for your maps. So I keep talking about, oh, you might be able to print a map off. So the idea in this case is you can go over to the print setting over here, and it allows you to print off what's in your frame of view right here. You will give it a name. So I'm going to say Savage Gulf demo map. And I like to go to the advanced settings here. This allows me to say things like include the legend. That's going to give me a legend for everything that's here instead of having to type one out or make one on word art or something like that. And I can include the north arrow. A print quality of 96 DPI is actually pretty low, so I'm going to try to up this to about 150. I'm going to hit print, and it's going to basically send it to the printer. It'll probably take 30 seconds to a minute for this to load and create the print. So we'll come back to that in just a second. All right. We're gonna leave Savage Gulf behind for a second, and we are gonna talk about how to edit the features that Leah was working on, or anybody else. Any other parks that want to volunteer themselves for a demo? And also pause real quick for any questions that we've got. All right. Well, in this case, let's head on down to it's a fun one. Let's go to Nathan Bedford Forest in this example. So this is a park that we haven't mapped too much in one smart park yet. There's some features that have come in from different old inventories. At one point, Mike Robertson asked me to map out all the water access points that we have at the parks. I did that just based off of imagery and park trail maps. So some of the data that's in here might not be correct. Maybe you had a park ranger or a seasonal enter some stuff and it's not quite the right location, or you changed the name of something. So in this example, we've got some boat access areas. I'm going to switch this over to imagery so we can tell what we're talking about here. And I'm going to edit this because now that I have visited there, I know that this stuff actually might be in a different location. So what I want to do, if I want to edit just like I did on my phone, I'm going to go to the edit button over here. By doing this, I can select or create something. So in this case, I'm going to hit the select button, which is the arrow. And that allows me to now click on this point. Once I've done that, now I'm entering the editor, which looks just like the smart form we saw on our phones. We've got the questions about what the type is, which park it is, whether it's public view, and what the name of it is. Um, it's a natural small boat access, and I might want to come in here and add some more information. So that's when I could do that. We might be deciding that we're going to be removing this or propose to remove it. If it actually was removed, I would select remove. This could help you keep a record of the things that used to be there. Might turn into a historical point if we wait 25 years or so. 50 years, I forget what the Antiquities Act tells us what becomes a historic feature. But yes, we've got some ideas that this has been reviewed. It will not be ever made ADA under this. And so yeah, that's where that is. If there was another thing that we just plain wanted to delete completely, if we open up the editor, we can scroll down to the very bottom and I could move it I could change the location, see how I'm dragging it down into the middle of the lake here, in which case I would say update, and that will update all the information and the location, or I can click delete. If you have something that you want to add more information to later on, let's do this other boat ramp, you can add attachments, and those attachments could be images, they could be PDF documents. So whether you want to attach like the information for a new signage design. So here we've got an interpretive exhibit. What I could do, which would be really sweet, is we've got all these awesome photos of it right here. So it's already been really well documented. Was renovated in 2019. Awesome photos. If I needed to attach the design specs or the files, the CAD files to this, all of those are options under the add attachments. And then you just select a file from your computer and it's stored here forever, which is really great. And yes, if you would like to get a GIS account, just send me an email after this or during the meeting, and I'll make sure to get you set up with that. There's a short little 45-minute video training you watch in order to get access through the STS help desk. You'll notice some recreation features. Those were added from a recreation survey that went out this past summer about the condition of some of our recreation assets. So you'll see those already in there as well. Let's pretend I want to make something completely new. So in this case, let's say that we are proposing we're turning this parking lot into a basketball court. These cabins really want to learn how to play basketball. What I can do is I'm on the editor pane here and I can type in court. I can type in baseball instead of basketball. I could do a disc golf basket, seaplane base. You'll see all the different options. Like Leah said, there's over 300 different park assets that you can put in here. So the basketball court, once I select it, it's going to pull up that smart form and give me a nice little symbol that I can draw. So it's really cool. You're building out your park as you do it. You're pulling in what you already know about the park and putting it in a final place where it's only going to grow over time. Here I would choose the park name, public view, yes. If I try to submit this right now, let's see what happens. It's gonna not let me do that because the little asterisk here next to park and public view tells me that that is a required field and it needs to be filled out in order to submit this final thing. If I go back without doing the details, it's going to ask me if I want to continue editing this point or if I want to discard it. In this case, I'm going to discard it because I don't need it. So I'm going to show you a couple little things real quick. I'm going to head on over to Roan Mountain because this is a great example of when your park is damaged, what can you do with GIS? So in this case, let's turn off the imagery so it can simplify this a little bit. The outdoor base map is the one that we typically use. It's really nice because it shows some terrain, it's got some labels, and it also has like contours and stuff. It just looks a lot very parky for us, so that's really nice. In this case, they did a quick signage inventory about the signs that were damaged during the storm. And the name of the sign was the Don't Dam the Doe, the Riverside Trail combo site for the group site. It needs replacement. It was washed away. This is pretty cool because if I wanted to see um, the signage that needs to be replaced versus the signage that remains, I can set up a filter real quick. So the filters are found when you hit the dot, 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 and I want to say, let's choose, I want signs where the status is one of these. Needs replacement, replacement in progress, or proposed. If I hit needs replacement and then turn it on, you're going to see only a few things disappear. So the status of this one right here is it's in fair condition and it did not need replacement. So that one disappears when I turn the filter on. You can also turn the filters on by going to the table. So this would be really helpful if I was trying to figure out how many park assets or signs or boundary reviews have I done at my park. I could filter down to see that. So in this case, I'm going to set my filter to a park name of interest. State park name is, and it shows me all the options of stuff that's been entered so far. Let's do Cove Lake for this example, and I'm going to turn it on. When it's off, if you go to the bottom, you'll see that there's been 770 boundary markers that have been mapped so far. If I turn the filter on, now we're at 116. So Jared over at Cove Lake, I believe, you can find out people's information pretty easily here. Has been the one, sorry, Jacob Mayfield. He's the one that's been doing all the stuff at Cove Lake. So it's pretty cool. You can learn from each other as well by doing this. So let's go look at what that Cove Lake exercise has been like. You can see all the different signage, boundary signs like Leah talked about, how they're a different color based on when they were visited. A few to remember though is when you're done with your filters, you should turn them off. You'll know that you have a filter set up if you go to these and you see that little orange dot. If you want to learn how to filter, all you got to do is click this button. And Leah has made this thing, it's called a scribe, which is kind of like a PDF guide that tells you what buttons to click in what order in case the video format is too fast for you. So that's a great way to learn some things. I wanted to show you guys a couple little things too, just for fun. Um, does anybody use iNaturalist here? Throw a thumbs up or hand if you've ever used that. The iNaturalist app for documenting species things. See, Gary's done it, a couple other folks, Awesome Faith, Corey, Demetria, great. So if you were at, let's say, Frozen Head and you were curious, what has the public marked through iNaturalist? We actually are pulling in a live feed of research grade iNaturalist points. They're under this layer called iNaturalist observations that is not editable to us unless you are like a research grade ranger who's been documenting it. You'll see your stuff pass through into our One Smart Park map. When I turn that on, now you see this really cool symbology of all the things. You can see that it mostly follows trails. If it doesn't follow a trail, what are people doing out there? That's a fun question. You'll find out. By zooming in, you can click on any of them, and there's a pop-up that was made by the iNaturalist team that tells you about it. American cauliflower mushroom. So this is a really cool way to learn about what's been documented at your park without doing a giant inventory yourself. You'll be able to see when it was documented. So this is back in 2023. It'll tell you the username of the person who did that. And it even links out to that person's profile so you can find out more about them. So if there's someone who's been finding a species that's really curious to you, maybe that's someone you could reach out to and message with. There is a symbology to that as well. I think it's based off of like either family level or genus or something like that. And that's what the colors represent. One last thing that we've added, I'm gonna turn iNaturalist off. It's a big layer, so I wouldn't turn it on until you're fully zoomed in to your park. We talked about the RMS, the search and rescue law enforcement reports. We recently, as in about 15 minutes ago, added in a layer that shows all the RMS incidents for your park. So if you needed to print out a map talking about those, you could do that. And that's really cool. Well, in the advanced training, we'll cover a little bit more how to make custom maps and visualize these differently. But if you were to click on one, you'll see what the report name was. If you click on something and you see more than one right here, it says one of three. That means I've clicked on three things at once, basically. I can toggle through those, and now I see the report. It was a search and rescue. The only information that we have about it is if there's a report number and the officer who did it. There was a patient care report there as well. Remember how I talked about printing earlier? If I go back to my print page, now we have the result from that print. If I open it up, it's a beautiful map. This is really great for communication, whether you're going to be planning out a trail day where you're going to be doing trail work or maybe invasive species management. You can mark all that out in advance and send out a map with symbology, all this reference material, north arrow, and it's just a really great print to have. Before I get carried away, I'm going to switch it back over to Leah to finish up showing what you can do on the map on your phone.
Thanks. Andrew, can you answer Lauren's question in the chat?
Yeah, so with Avenza, if you've been using Avenza for a while, you can use this instead. The benefit of using this is that what you collect will show up on your other rangers and staff's phone if they have a GIS license. If your maintenance people are the ones doing the trail work and maintenance and you want them to be able to see that map and kind of in live feed of it, it'd be great for them to get their own license, and we can certainly get them set up for that. Then they can just watch this video and learn how to document trail damage. The symbology is set up so that if you have it is green if it's completed, yellow if it's pending, and red if it's a pending safety issue. So there's just three colors that would show up, and if there's something that needs to be taken care of immediately for safety, you kind of mark it as red. Um, so yes, we can use Avenza. If you've already collected a ton of things in Avenza, you can send us that data and we'll preload it into here so you're not starting from scratch all over again.
Thanks. All right, so we went over creating features in field maps on the phone, but now let's edit some existing features. So say I am doing that boundary review and I come up to this yellow boundary marker. I'm just going to click on it and it's going to show me my form, and in the bottom left, I'm going to click the pencil, and this is going to bring up the smart form that we're used to. And it says that I reviewed this on December 2023, so I'm going to X that date out because I reviewed it today, and I'm going to update that, so I'll just click submit. And now you'll see that my boundary marker has turned green because I reviewed it today. If you want to delete a feature, so like this red flag next to that boundary marker that I just edited, that's a boundary encroachment. So if I click on that, maybe we have already dealt with this encroachment. Maybe it's like a deer stand and we've removed it. I can actually delete this point. If I just scroll down to the bottom, there's a delete option. And it'll ask me to confirm, and then I no longer have that point on my map. All right. Someone asked about trail planning and streaming your location in the field. So to do that, I'm just going to click and hold. We're going to do a new trail that I want to plan out with my new trailhead. I'm going to do collect here, and I'm just typing in trail. And we want trail planning. It's a linear feature near the top. All right. And so if I was in the field walking a proposed trail or maybe a reroute, I would just click dot, dot, dot in the right and do start streaming. So what that is going to do is just drop those cookie crumbs as I walk the trail. And so I don't have to manually add those points as I'm going, pretty similar to Avenza if you're used to that. Since I am sitting still right now, I do need to add the points manually. So I'll walk, 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 add a point, walk, 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 add a point until I connect my trail. Okay, so now that trail is ready. I can take photos, attachments. I'll have to give it a park name. This is where you can kind of tell me and Andrew about this trail that will be opening soon. So you can give it a name, a rating, a blaze color, the description of the blaze itself, your trail status. So right now it's proposed, but as soon as it opens, you could change it to open, trail use, trail surface, and you can see that it will automatically calculate that trail length for you. This is super helpful because as soon as you send me an email, say, hey, Leah, this new trail at our park is open now, I can pull this trail planning layer up and input that trail segment into your park map almost immediately. So it really speeds up that process and less data emails back and forth. So I'll just click submit on that. And the last thing I'll demo is a polygon layer. So let's say I want to do a vegetation or invasives treatment. So I'm going to click the plus button at the bottom and I'll type in veg and you'll see that green polygon show up. And again, if I was in the field, I would click dot, 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 start streaming, and I would walk that perimeter that I'm going to treat. But for this demo, I'm just going to quickly map out a polygon like this. All right, and then I'll give it a park name. I can give it a unit name if your park has units or natural areas. Sometimes have those agency leading treatment. That will be state parks for this demo. The treatment date is today, and today we're going to treat autumn olive. So if I just type in olive, you can search by common or scientific name. Either will come up. I'm going to select that. And then if I'm also going to be treating one other species, I can say I have one secondary species and also I'll just say we'll do tree of heaven. So I have two species I'm aiming for. This treatment method, we're just going to say pool since they're pretty small at this point. And then below this is a lot of optional fields like weather-related details, herbicides, if you're using them, crew hours, etc. You'll see that it will calculate your acreage, so this is great for tracking how much herbicide you're using, but also IPP saying, hey, I treated 9 acres of invasives this quarter. If you want to type in how many personnel from other organizations or volunteers that helped you, you can keep up with that here, as well as funding source and any other notes. So at the top, you also have pictures and attachments up here. So some people like to do this and add before and after pictures to kind of see if that treatment is effective or not. And so if we click submit, you'll see that over time we'll have a living inventory of what treatments are happening at your park, and hopefully these polygons continue to shrink over time. All right, Andrew.
Oh, that's awesome. While you still have that, are those raindrops or what are those water features that you have on your map?
Yeah, so these are utility points. They are, as you can see, if I click this one, this is a water meter. Um, we have several different utility points. I can show you those. But this is an awesome way just to inventory your utilities in case an emergency happens and maybe your maintenance man is on vacation. So if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see we have potable water, sewer, septic, electrical, LPG, irrigation, telephone, you name it, we have it. And if we don't have it, we'll make it. So we have points and line features. So if you're ever replacing something, be sure to map it out in one smart park just so we have that institutional knowledge recorded somewhere. Um, but we can also work with folks who have this mapped in other platforms and getting this into one smart park if you already have collected that somewhere.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly. It's a cool one. There's tons of different layers there. It's new to us, so the specifics will change. And we're hoping to be able to connect that to maintenance systems in the future and other projects like that. So I'll let you guys put in the chat any questions that you still have, and we will show you just one more thing. So with the utilities, this is what it can look like on the ground for a park that actually has them. So there, I'm not seeing anything showing up here. All I see is a whole bunch of different park assets that were collected. In this case, we have the utilities turned off by default because it's a big layer and we don't want it to take over too much. It's a group layer, so they're actually, if I were to turn them all on at once, you'll see some stuff show up, which is great. You could move them out of the group if you needed to, if you wanted them in a specific spot in order on your map. And so this is an example where they've mapped the water lines that go from place to place. It's a PVC main. They got it from the as-built. And we can georeference blueprints for you too, so that you can reference those. And we have a video that shows you how to take a picture of your phone of that blueprint and map that out if that's an easier way for you to do that. So this will help out if you need to know where to shut off water line, who's the supplier for it. There are two valves here. The closer to the golf course kills the horse water, another kills the office except for the fire suppressor. That's all information that some of your maintenance team have that nobody else might know. So it's great to store it in this system for the long haul. With the vegetation and vegetation and invasive management, you can use it maybe a couple different ways. Some people are using it currently as like an inventory tool. So where they're going around and they're mapping out the different species that they've found here. Um, Japanese honeysuckle, some multiflora rose. And in other times, they're going around, like at the Division of Natural Areas, uses this more as to mark the treatments of what they've done. And so I'm going to go over to the Columbia Cedar Glade here, close to where I live. You can see all the awesome prescribed fire that they've done over time. As it gets busy, it gets busy. They use the streaming your location in order to map out all of these. And if I were to click on it, it's going to pull up two different treatments that happen at this location. I do it again. Four different treatments have happened here. So now we got a history of it. But what I could do is if I wanted to, I could filter these out. So I'm going to go to the invasives, make sure I get to showing the Columbia East and West. I could say the primary target is Lespedeza, or the secondary target was Japanese stilt grass. And I could set a filter so that only one of them show up. We're trying to make it so that we can set it up so that it shows by date and time, but we're going to get more into that in our advanced training next week. All right. With that, does anybody have any questions on the One Smart Park system? All right. Well, thank you very much. You can keep putting questions in the chat and we'll answer you on the side. Reach out to me if you would like a GIS license, and we'll post up this recording and then we'll forward over any invites to the advanced trainings for those of you who'd like to join us there. Thank you, Leah, for showing us all these awesome demos, and hope to see you out there mapping soon.